In the fertile plains of ancient Mesopotamia, under a vast starlit sky, the early Babylonians gathered to observe the celestial bodies they believed influenced the fate of their crops and the course of their lives. They meticulously documented the movements of stars and planets, forming the world's earliest astrological systems. In the heart of Petra, Nabatean priests gather at night in solemn worship of the stars, connecting the heavens with the powerful Nabatean deities like Dushara and Al-Uzza. They trace constellations and record omens, creating star maps that align with their temples, believing their gods to manifest through celestial signs. In Alexandria, Egyptian astrologers study the alignment of stars, intertwining it with mystical knowledge from the Book of Thoth. These ancient seers connect each planetary movement to the will of Egyptian gods, seeing astrological insights as divine revelations. In the highlands of Persia, Zoroastrian magi ascend a sacred hill, awaiting celestial signs that mark the changing of seasons and divine omens. The Magi see the stars as pathways to Ahura Mazda, their god, and interpret the positions of Venus and Jupiter as omens for future events. The nomadic Bedouin tribes of Arabia trace their way across the desert by the stars, attributing spiritual and mystical qualities to constellations like Al-Suhail and Al-Thuraya. These stars become central to their legends, guiding their paths and influencing their tribal lore. With the rise of the Umayyad Caliphate, astrology becomes infused with Islamic teachings. Scholars and astronomers begin translating Greek and Persian texts, merging them with the Islamic understanding of the cosmos. They debate the role of stars and planets in destiny, as courts consult astrologers to guide political decisions. In the Abbasid Golden Age, philosopher al-Kindi writes extensively on astrology, linking it with both science and mysticism. He argues for a systematic study of the stars, influencing thinkers across the Arab world. Caliphs often seek his advice on celestial matters, seeing his knowledge as divine wisdom. The celebrated astronomer al-Battani advances the study of celestial bodies by developing precise calculations that define the movement of the stars. His contributions lead to greater accuracy in horoscopes and are revered across the Islamic world. During the reign of Harun al-Rashid, astrologers are regularly summoned to predict events, charting the fates of allies and rivals alike. Astrological charts influence political decisions, guiding military campaigns and peace treaties. Sufi mystics in the Islamic world develop a deeply spiritual understanding of the stars, seeing them as signs of divine love. The stars become a language through which they interpret visions, reaching a mystical union with the cosmos that goes beyond mere astrology. Ibn Sina, known in the West as Avicenna, blends philosophy with astrology, medicine, and mysticism. His works on celestial influences become cornerstones in the development of Islamic occultism, offering a rational explanation for the relationship between the cosmos and human existence. His teachings are widely studied and influence future scholars. Under the Fatimids, astrology and mysticism become intertwined with the political landscape. Court astrologers gain significant influence, and the Fatimid rulers rely on celestial guidance for matters of governance. Mystical interpretations of the stars are used to justify decisions and divine the future. By the 12th century, theosophy, an esoteric system of thought, begins to take root in the Islamic world. Thinkers like Ibn Arabi explore the unity of all existence, viewing astrology and the mystical experience as pathways to understanding divine reality. Their ideas spread to the wider Muslim world, influencing future generations. Alchemists in the medieval Islamic world combine astrology, mysticism, and the occult to discover the philosopher's stone, seek immortality, and transmute metals into gold. Figures like Jabir ibn Hayyan write extensively on the subjects, linking alchemy with celestial movements and divine power. Persian scholars significantly contribute to the evolution of Islamic astrology. Their work, grounded in the study of stars and planetary positions, is incorporated into Islamic philosophical thought. Persian astronomers and astrologers help shape the intellectual landscape of the Islamic world, influencing Islamic mysticism and esoteric practices. Ibn Khaldun, a towering figure in Islamic intellectual history, delves into the cyclical nature of civilizations and the mystical forces that shape them. His Muqaddimah offers insights into the occult forces that govern human society, connecting astrology and mysticism with social and political structures. The intellectual climate of Al-Andalus sees a blending of Islamic, Jewish, and Christian knowledge. Scholars in this region make groundbreaking contributions to astrology and astronomy, often integrating mystical and occult principles with the scientific study of the stars. The school of thought thrives in the vibrant cities of Córdoba and Seville. In the Ottoman Empire, astrology and mysticism experience a revival as sultans seek counsel from astrologers. The role of the astrologer grows, and astrological practices become more intertwined with state affairs, influencing military campaigns, diplomatic relations, and matters of succession. The Safavid Empire in Persia continues the astrological and mystical traditions of the Islamic world, particularly in the royal court. Persian astrologers are revered for their knowledge of the stars, and astrology is used to influence the empire's foreign policy, military strategy, and royal succession. Sufi mysticism deeply intertwines with astrology, seeing the stars not as mere celestial bodies but as representations of divine presence. Sufi orders often employ astrology as a means of understanding the soul's journey, with the stars seen as guides to the divine. In the modern Middle East, astrology remains a potent tool, especially in political spheres. Leaders and politicians often consult astrologers, seeking guidance on important decisions. Some states have even established official astrologers, blending traditional beliefs with modern political strategy. Modern Islamic thought reflects a continued interest in astrology, particularly within spiritual circles. Some contemporary scholars and mystics maintain that astrology can help individuals align with the divine order, offering practical guidance for everyday life. While not universally accepted, astrology remains a significant part of spiritual and religious practices in some Muslim communities. Throughout history, women have contributed significantly to the field of astrology and mysticism in the Islamic world. Figures such as Al-Khansa and others are recorded as scholars and practitioners of occult sciences. Their involvement in astrology was often constrained by societal norms, but their influence was nonetheless profound, and many continued to practice and study in secret. In the Mamluk Sultanate, astrology becomes closely tied to the military and royal governance. Astrologers are often consulted before key military campaigns, and their advice shapes the timing of battles, royal decrees, and even decisions on the welfare of the state. Mamluk rulers place great emphasis on celestial timing. Islamic scholars, particularly in the early medieval period, incorporated Greek and Persian astrological traditions into their works. Figures such as Al-Kindi and Al-Farabi drew heavily from Ptolemaic astrology and Persian cosmology. This fusion created a unique body of astrological thought that shaped future Islamic and Western astrology. Astrology flourished in the courts of medieval Muslim rulers. Court astrologers became central to the political fabric of Islamic empires, advising rulers on the timing of wars, treaties, and royal ceremonies. These astrologers often rose to prominence through their skill and understanding of celestial movements. Astrology in the Fatimid Caliphate is not just the domain of mystics and scholars, but is also woven into the bureaucratic processes. The Fatimid rulers employ astrologers to advise on matters of governance, such as the appointment of officials and the best days for launching new projects. Astrology is used to harmonize the state's actions with the will of the heavens. Al-Ghazali, a revered philosopher and theologian, incorporates astrology and mysticism in his works, often linking them to Sufism. He teaches that knowledge of the stars can lead to spiritual enlightenment, but warns against the dangers of excessive reliance on astrology, cautioning that true knowledge comes only from divine revelation. Islamic Spain serves as a conduit for the transmission of astrological and occult knowledge from the Islamic world to Europe. In the contemporary Middle East, astrology is undergoing a revival among younger generations. Many are turning to astrology, mysticism, and occult sciences as a way to navigate the complexities of modern life, seeking guidance from ancient wisdom in an increasingly globalized and fast-paced world. With the rise of social media and digital platforms, astrology has seen a resurgence in the Arab world. In modern-day politics, astrology still plays a significant role in some Middle Eastern countries. Astrology continues to be passed down through generations in some Arab families. Grandparents teach their grandchildren the ancient art of reading the stars, ensuring that the mystical knowledge survives in the modern age. Family-based astrology practices often blend traditional wisdom with contemporary interpretations. Astrology is intricately woven into some Islamic rituals, particularly during the holy month of Ramadan. Many believe that the positioning of celestial bodies can determine the most auspicious times for fasting, prayers, and religious events. While mainstream Islamic thought focuses on the divine schedule set by God, certain mystical schools emphasize the role of astrology in understanding divine will. Astrology is deeply embedded in the folk traditions of many Middle Eastern cultures. The common people rely on astrological guidance for personal matters, from marriage and health to agriculture and business ventures. These practices, though not officially endorsed by religious leaders, persist in rural areas, showing the resilience of ancient astrological beliefs. The 20th century witnessed a decline in the popularity of astrology in the Arab world, especially due to the rise of secularism and modern scientific thinking. However, in recent decades, astrology has experienced a revival, particularly with the rise of spiritualism and New Age movements, as people seek to connect with ancient wisdom in the face of modern uncertainties. In the Gulf states, astrology is experiencing a modern resurgence, largely through digital platforms. Influencers, astrologers, and mystics offer personalized readings via social media, and astrology has become an integral part of lifestyle and wellness culture. Despite conservative elements, astrology remains popular among younger generations. Astrology continues to influence royal decisions in parts of the Middle East. In the past, monarchs consulted astrologers for advice on political, military, and personal matters. Today, some rulers and royal families still rely on astrologers, viewing them as keepers of ancient wisdom that guides the state in accordance with divine will. In recent decades, a new form of mysticism has emerged in the Islamic world, blending Sufism, astrology, and spiritual practices. Known as Islamic New Age mysticism, This movement incorporates astrological charts and mystical symbols as tools for self-discovery and spiritual growth. Practitioners claim that astrology can reveal one's true purpose in life and help navigate the challenges of the modern world. Modern Arab authors have often incorporated astrology and mysticism into their literary works, reflecting the continued fascination with the mystical arts in the Arab world. Writers use astrology as a metaphor for fate, free will, and the mysteries of the universe, weaving these themes into the narratives of their characters' lives. Astrology plays a significant, albeit unofficial, role in medical practices in some parts of the Middle East. Astrologers are often consulted alongside doctors, particularly in rural areas, to determine the best times for treatments, surgeries, and healing practices. This integration of astrology with health reflects a holistic approach to well-being. Astrology, during its golden age in the Islamic world, was often studied alongside philosophy and science. Thinkers like Ibn Sina, Avicenna, and Ibn Rushd, Averroes, debated the metaphysical aspects of astrology, questioning its validity within Islamic cosmology. Their works laid the foundation for understanding the role of celestial bodies in Islamic thought. Astrology plays a significant role in marital decisions in some Arab cultures. Families often consult astrologers to determine the compatibility of prospective spouses based on their astrological signs. This practice, which blends both mystical and familial expectations, continues to be popular in many rural and urban communities. In the 21st century, astrology has found new life through digital platforms, with astrology apps and websites becoming increasingly popular in the Arab world. In medieval times, astrologers often held important roles in royal courts, advising rulers on matters of state and strategy. They were consulted before major battles, diplomatic negotiations, and decisions regarding the fate of empires. The belief in celestial influence on the earthly realm was widespread, and rulers like the Seljuk sultans relied on astrological readings for tactical advantages. Al-Battani, one of the most renowned Arab astronomers and astrologers, contributed immensely to the understanding of celestial bodies. His work on astronomical tables and calculations became a cornerstone of later Islamic and European astronomy. His ability to integrate astrological insight with scientific rigor set him apart as a pivotal figure in both fields. Sufism, with its emphasis on the unseen and the divine, integrates astrology in its spiritual practices. Sufi mystics often use astrology to better understand their spiritual journey and to align themselves with the divine will. Astrology, in this context, isn't seen as a tool for predicting the future but as a means of understanding one's spiritual path and alignment with the cosmos. The Safavid Empire, with its blending of Persian culture and Shia Islam, saw a significant rise in the importance of astrology. The empire's rulers and scholars not only saw astrology as a scientific pursuit, but also incorporated it into their religious and political decisions. The court of Shah Abbas the Great was known for consulting astrologers for both personal and state matters. Egypt, with its rich history of mysticism and the occult, has long been a center of astrological thought. From the ancient Egyptians, who used astrology for both personal and royal matters, to modern-day spiritualists in Cairo, the influence of astrology remains strong. Egypt's connection to the stars continues through its heritage of pyramid construction, which aligned with celestial events. Al-Khwarizmi, the famous mathematician, not only made groundbreaking contributions to algebra but also advanced the application of astrology. His work on astronomical tables and the calculation of astrological positions was essential in connecting mathematical precision with the ancient art of astrology. His integration of mathematics with astrology opened up new pathways for understanding the cosmos. In modern Arab society, astrology has evolved from a widely accepted scientific discipline to a more personal and often mystical practice. While many still consult astrologers for life advice, astrology has become a subject of controversy, especially with the rise of secularism and modern skepticism. Nonetheless, it remains popular in the media, with astrology columns in newspapers and television shows dedicated to the subject. During the Renaissance in the Arab world, a resurgence of interest in astrology was sparked by the rediscovery of classical texts. Many scholars in places like Cairo and Baghdad translated Greek and Persian astrological texts into Arabic, preserving them for future generations. This era marked the beginning of a new intellectual awakening, where astrology was studied alongside mathematics, philosophy, and the natural sciences. In the Bedouin traditions of the Arabian Peninsula, astrology has been passed down through generations as part of their nomadic lifestyle. The stars are used not only for navigation across the desert but also for determining auspicious times for events such as weddings, battles, and migrations. Bedouins see the stars as guiding forces, connected deeply to their ancestral heritage and their survival. The Islamic Golden Age saw a flourishing of astrology, influenced by Greek and Persian scholars such as Ptolemy, Plotinus, and Zoroaster. These scholars brought with them a deep knowledge of astrology that was synthesized with Islamic thought. This fusion of cultures created a golden era where astrology was studied both as a science and an art, influencing everything from politics to personal affairs. Today, astrology is both embraced and criticized in the Arab world. While it remains a common practice in many parts of society, especially in rural areas and among the youth, it is also viewed with suspicion by conservative and secular forces. The practice has been marginalized in some places, but in others, it has found a niche within pop culture and media, blending traditional beliefs with modern sensibilities. During the rule of the Fatimid Caliphate in Egypt, astrology was highly regarded, particularly in the royal court. The Fatimids were keen on using astrology not just for political reasons but also to reinforce their religious authority. They employed astrologers to predict auspicious times for royal ceremonies, battles, and the selection of leaders. The court's support of astrology made it an essential science in Fatimid governance. Islamic architecture, especially during the Golden Age, often incorporated astrological and celestial elements. Architects and scholars believed that aligning buildings with certain stars or celestial phenomena could bring divine blessings. The Great Mosque of Cordoba, for example, is thought to have been designed with astrological principles in mind. This belief led to an era where the stars influenced everything from mosque layout to the timing of religious events. In the Maghreb, astrology found its place in both academic circles and the folk traditions of the Berber people. Stars. This integration of astrology with the rhythms of the earth allowed both the elite and common people to rely on the stars for guidance. Astrology was intertwined with Islamic medicine during the medieval period. Physicians like Avicenna and al-Razi integrated astrological charts into their medical practices, believing that celestial influences could affect the health of individuals. Specific times for administering treatments, surgeries, and other medical interventions were often chosen based on astrological readings, connecting the healing process to cosmic forces. The Al-Qarawiyyan Library in Fez, one of the oldest continuously operating libraries in the world, became a significant center for the study of astrology during the Islamic Golden Age. Scholars from across the Muslim world gathered here to study both classical and contemporary astrological texts. The library housed works by famous Islamic astrologers, and its role as a hub for learning led to many advancements in astrology and astronomy. Throughout history, women in the Arab world have played significant roles in the practice of astrology, although their contributions were often overlooked. In the courts of the Abbasid and Umayyad caliphates, some women were known to be highly skilled astrologers, offering advice to rulers on matters ranging from political strategies to personal fortunes. Despite societal constraints, women used astrology to carve out a space for themselves in the intellectual and spiritual landscape. In the modern Arab world, the influence of astrology has been in decline, particularly with the rise of secularism and rationalism. The 20th century saw astrology marginalized, especially with the influence of Western science and technology. However, astrology has seen a resurgence in recent years, particularly with the advent of social media and astrology-focused blogs and websites. It has become a form of personal self-expression for many. In contemporary times, there has been a revival of interest in ancient astrological practices, especially in the context of New Age spirituality. Many modern Arab practitioners of astrology are reconnecting with pre-Islamic traditions, blending them with Islamic mysticism and spiritualism. This fusion of old and new has led to a new wave of astrological thought that draws from a variety of sources, including pre-Islamic, Islamic, and Western astrological traditions. Astrology has become a fixture in Arab pop culture, with many television shows, magazines, and online platforms dedicated to horoscopes and astrological advice. Astrology columns are frequently published in mainstream newspapers, and social media influencers who specialize in astrology attract large followings. In this way, astrology has become a source of entertainment as well as personal guidance for millions of people. Astrology's future in the Arab world remains uncertain. While some view it as an ancient practice that should be left behind, others see it as a valuable tool for personal insight and spiritual growth. The growing interest in alternative and holistic practices may lead to astrology's continued popularity, especially as younger generations seek out spiritual and metaphysical guidance. The fusion of traditional beliefs with modern technology could redefine astrology in the Arab world. Astrology's influence spread far and wide across the Arab world during the medieval period, reaching as far as Andalusia in Spain, Persia, and even India. Trade routes and intellectual exchanges between scholars from different regions facilitated the cross-pollination of astrological ideas. Arabic translations of Greek, Persian, and Indian texts enriched the existing astrological knowledge, leading to the development of unique hybrid systems. During the Umayyad Caliphate, astrology became intertwined with politics and royal decision-making. Caliphs consulted astrologers to decide on the timing of military campaigns and the selection of strategic leaders. The belief that celestial forces could influence earthly matters gave astrology immense political and religious power, further solidifying its importance in the governance of the empire. Islamic astronomers made significant contributions to the field of astrology, particularly in the translation and preservation of ancient Greek and Indian astrological texts. These scholars, such as al-Battani and al-Farghani, not only translated but also refined astrological models, incorporating them into the broader field of astronomy. Their work helped establish the relationship between the movements of the stars and the fate of individuals and nations. The translation movement in the Abbasid period played a crucial role in the expansion of astrological knowledge in the Arab world. Texts from ancient civilizations, Greek, Persian, and Indian, were translated into Arabic, and many of these works were later disseminated throughout Europe and the rest of the Islamic world. Scholars like al-Kindi and Ibn Sina were central figures in translating and preserving astrological knowledge, laying the foundation for future astrological studies. Astrology played a key role in the development of Islamic calendars, which were vital for determining prayer times, fasting during Ramadan, and the Hajj pilgrimage. The lunar calendar, based on the phases of the moon, was influenced by astrological observations. Scholars in the early Islamic period used astrological charts to calculate precise times for religious observances, blending astronomy with religious and mystical beliefs. Sufism, the mystical branch of Islam, has a deep connection to astrology, seeing celestial bodies as symbols of divine influence. Sufi mystics often viewed the stars and planets as manifestations of divine will, and astrology was used as a tool for spiritual guidance. The Sufi tradition incorporates astrology into its spiritual practices, aligning the mystical journey of the soul with the celestial movements. This belief system led to the development of esoteric astrological schools within Sufism. Persian astrology had a profound influence on Islamic astrology, especially during the early centuries of the Islamic Empire. Figures like al-Razi and al-Biruni were instrumental in integrating Persian astrological knowledge with Islamic thought. The influence of Persian zodiac signs, the concept of horoscopes, and the use of Persian astrological texts shaped the way astrology developed in the Arab world, blending ancient wisdom with Islamic cosmology. The Mamluk dynasty in Egypt was a period where astrology once again gained royal patronage. The Mamluks, like their predecessors, saw astrology as a tool for political decision-making. Royal astrologers were employed to guide the Mamluks on matters ranging from diplomacy to the timing of battles. Astrology was not just a science but an important part of the Mamluk court's mystique and legitimacy. Astrology was a major theme in medieval Islamic literature. Scholars, poets, and mystics frequently incorporated astrological references into their works, believing that the stars could influence human behavior and fate. Classical Persian poetry, Arabic philosophical texts, and Sufi mystic writings often included astrological motifs, exploring the connections between the heavens and the human soul. These texts have influenced generations of readers and continue to be referenced in modern Arab literature. During the Ottoman Empire, astrology continued to flourish as both a science and an art, influencing political and social decisions. Sultans sought the guidance of court astrologers, especially during crucial moments like the start of wars or the selection of key officials. Astrological predictions were also intertwined with other forms of mysticism, including alchemy and numerology. The Ottomans, with their vast reach, helped disseminate astrological ideas further into the Islamic world, especially in Anatolia and the Balkans. While often overshadowed by male scholars, women in the Islamic Golden Age played significant roles in astrology and astronomy. Female scholars such as Fatima al-Fihri and others contributed to the intellectual circles that studied celestial bodies and astrological practices. In some cases, women served as royal advisors or personal astrologers, using their knowledge of the stars to offer counsel on political and personal matters. Islamic philosophers, particularly during the Abbasid era, engaged deeply with astrology, seeking to reconcile it with Islamic thought. Figures like al-Farabi and Ibn Sina, Avicenna, discussed the influence of celestial bodies on human nature and fate. Their writings blended Aristotelian and Neoplatonic thought with Islamic theological perspectives, laying the groundwork for a unique Islamic philosophical understanding of astrology. The concept of fate, qadar, is central to Islamic theology, and astrology played a role in how early Muslims viewed divine will. Some believed that celestial events were signs of divine guidance, while others argued that astrology was a way of understanding the divine plan, but not controlling it. The tension between predestination and free will in Islamic thought often overlapped with astrological teachings, creating a complex relationship between faith and celestial influence. Ibn Arabi, the famous Sufi mystic and philosopher, deeply integrated astrology into his mystical vision of the universe. For him, the stars were not merely physical objects but symbols of the divine and reflections of the inner spiritual journey. His teachings combined astrology with the concept of divine love and cosmic unity, helping to shape the way later generations of Sufis viewed the celestial realm and its connection to human existence. In medieval Andalusia, the Islamic world flourished in terms of scientific, philosophical, and astrological research. Astrologers in cities like Córdoba and Granada synthesized the knowledge of ancient Greece, Persia, and India, making significant contributions to the field. Centuries. With the arrival of colonial powers and the subsequent modernization of the Arab world, astrology's influence began to decline. Western scientific thought, particularly the Enlightenment, challenged traditional beliefs in astrology and mysticism. While astrology was still practiced in some circles, it lost its political and religious power. Today, astrology is often viewed as a form of entertainment rather than a serious discipline, though it still has a following in certain regions. Today, astrology in the Arab world is experiencing a resurgence, with many individuals turning to horoscopes and astrological advice as a form of personal guidance. While still not considered a mainstream science, astrology has found a place in popular culture, especially on social media platforms. The influence of astrology can be seen in television programs, newspapers, and online forums, where astrologers offer insights into personal lives and national affairs. In Egypt, astrology is deeply embedded in the fabric of cultural life. From the bustling streets of Cairo to the more rural areas, astrologers are consulted for everything from personal advice to predicting the outcomes of national events. Many Egyptians still look to the stars, and the country has a long history of both skepticism and reverence towards astrology. The 20th and 21st centuries have seen a blend of modern scientific discourse and the ancient practice of astrology, with figures like Zakia Zaki gaining popularity as prominent astrologers in Egypt. In the Gulf states, astrology, mysticism, and occult practices have long been part of the cultural landscape, though they exist alongside the strict Islamic frameworks prevalent in the region. In countries like the UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, astrology often intersects with traditional folk beliefs, as well as superstitions surrounding luck and fortune. While much of the region adheres to a more conservative religious view, there has been a growing interest in astrological services as a form of personal guidance, especially among the younger generation. The influence of astrology can be seen not only in the scholarly works of the past but also in the very design of Arab architecture. From intricate tilework to the alignment of buildings with celestial bodies, the ancient practice of astrology has shaped the way many historical mosques, palaces, and observatories were designed. One of the best-known examples is the observatory built by the famous astronomer al-Battani in the 9th century, located in what is now modern-day Iraq. Many of these structures were meticulously designed to align with certain star systems. In recent years, astrology has experienced a resurgence in the Arab world, especially among youth, due to the influence of social media. Platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube have seen the rise of astro-influencers who use these platforms to spread astrological knowledge and engage with followers on a daily basis. This trend has reshaped astrology from an ancient practice to a more accessible form of entertainment, while still holding a deep connection to personal identity and spiritual guidance. In Saudi Arabia, where religious conservatism governs most aspects of life, astrology faces legal and social restrictions, yet continues to have a silent presence. While it is officially discouraged by the government, there is an underground network of astrologers who continue to operate discreetly. Many people still believe in the influence of celestial bodies, especially when it comes to making decisions regarding marriage, career, and health. Some astrologers in Saudi Arabia even utilize modern technology, such as apps, to offer their services. As the world becomes increasingly globalized, the Arab world is witnessing a revival of interest in astrology, mysticism, and occult practices. Many of the younger generation, especially those in urban centers, are turning back to these ancient disciplines as a way of connecting with their cultural heritage, exploring their identity, and seeking guidance in uncertain times. In addition to traditional astrology, there is also a growing interest in other forms of mysticism, such as tarot reading and numerology. In the contemporary Arab world, astrology has become a tool for personal identity, self-reflection, and even social validation. Many people turn to astrology to better understand their own behavior, relationships, and career paths. This personalized aspect of astrology appeals to individuals looking for a sense of agency and meaning in a rapidly changing world. Birth charts and zodiac signs have become important cultural markers in a society that is navigating its future while holding on to its past. While astrology remains popular in certain circles, it also faces considerable criticism and skepticism in the Arab world. Some religious scholars and critics argue that astrology is un-Islamic and is based on superstition rather than science. There are debates on whether belief in astrology undermines the tenets of Islam, particularly the idea that only God knows the future. These controversies have led to a cautious approach to astrology in many Arab countries, with governments monitoring and sometimes censoring its practice.